Broadcasting from somewhere beneath the New York Public Library, it's Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Hello to everyone, and welcome to our spooky cryptid podcast. I'm Brian, here as always with my elusive bipedal colleague, Eric. What's up, man?
I'm a jackalope.
What's the jackalope again?
Oh, shoot, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. No, I believe it's a hare combined with like an antelope. Like, I think it's like a... Willie, can you help me?
Jackrabbit and antelope.
There we go.
Jackalope.
That makes sense.
That's the one.
Hey, Willie's here.
I'm here.
Our obvious expert on cryptids.
Obviously.
Thankfully, I sent Willie a message like, hey, we're going to talk about Bigfoot this week. And as the resident Sasquatchologist, your expertise here is going to be really, really vital.
Oh, good. Hell yeah, because I know so much about Bigfoot. I'm just a huge fan.
We used to live together, and it would just be Bigfoot all the fucking time.
Bigfoot all the time. I did recently watch a documentary. It was like a true crime documentary where Bigfoot murdered somebody.
Oh, I saw that. That's a good ass.
It was a good, except for spoilers. Sounds like Bigfoot didn't actually do it.
I don't think Bigfoot was responsible. That's Sasquatch on Hulu. It's very good.
Is it? It's like a real It's a documentary of real things.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's just like it seemed like a guy who was really amped to make a documentary about like an investigation, true crime documentary, and he was like, "Okay, fuck it, I'll just do the Bigfoot story." Like that was like the best because he did not seem very invested. There's no way in hell he actually ever thought it was Bigfoot, but like he spent the first few episodes pretending like maybe it could have been Bigfoot.
Just to give some full context, the documentary is called Sasquatch. It's on Hulu, and basically this guy as a younger man worked on a like pot farm in Oregon, and he remembers waking up one night to hearing a bunch of guys very upset that Bigfoot killed a bunch of people.
Oh, wow.
And it's him looking into what the fuck was that about?
I do feel like Oregon pot farms are sort of the ground zero of all Bigfoot stories. That is the nexus from which they all emerge.
Now, does the Oregon pot farms, does Bigfoot like grow out of there, or is Bigfoot attracted to the Oregon pot farms? I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, that's a great question.
Willie,
yes. Hi.
Thank you for coming back. It's been a couple of years since
course.
We've gotten to hang out with you on this. You have a YouTube channel. Tell us about that real fast.
I knit and I talk, and the combination of the two is a thing that for some reason people have watched, and so I kept doing it.
I feel like that's a classic combo, literally for thousands of years.
Yeah, I personally have never had any interaction with people while knitting in any way. But it seems to be like I get a lot of comments where it's like it feels like a knitting circle, and I'm like, I don't know what a knitting circle is, but I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna pretend like I had some idea of that was intentional, and I knew it, but
it's a knitting circle, but it's just Willie talking, usually about. I believe you had a Housewives episode.
Top Model.
Okay.
I do a lot of America's Next Top Model. Yeah. There's one episode where I talk about the time I accidentally got published in Harry Potter.
I remember that.
That
great
video is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
And that story is buck wild.
It's still so fun.
Can you give a very truncated version of it, just for anybody who doesn't know?
So way back at our CollegeHumor days, I wrote a series of tweets, fake tweets, making fun of J.K. Rowling's Twitter and her propensity for making up like facts about her characters after, and so it's just kind of me kind of trying to get that as big as I could, and I did, I think, but one of the less overblown versions of the tweets was taken, and it was like taken out of the context of the article, and then when they were making a like annotated Harry Potter, I think some intern's job was just to like round up a bunch of old J.K. Rowling tweets, and one of my fake ones got mixed in with it, and so they published in the annotated version of the book that Flitwick and Sprout had dated, but that was just me made up. And then my favorite part about that is the fact that they then like retracted it as though it was like a news story where it's just like, this can't be, and it's like, no, I think it's just whatever you say. Yeah,
it's just I'm sure it probably would have been easier to just reach out to J.K. Rowling. This just be.
Yeah.
The important thing is that we have here today Willie Muse, Sasquatchologist, and co-author of Harry Potter.
That's true.
That's right.
I am both. I honestly, when I die, that's what it's gonna say. Because I love my Harry Potter, and I love my Sasquatch. I am an expert on both topics.
Both of those
undeniable.
Things. And thankfully, that's primarily what we're going to be talking about tonight. But first, before we get into Sasquatch, Eric, this isn't quite news from the weird. This is just talks you and I should be having about the show just on mic.
I love that.
7 hours ago,
okay,
something posted on the website ctpost.com. ParaConn, CT's Paranormal Convention, returns to Ansonia in July.
Oh, we're going. We can't not go.
VIP tickets, $20.
My friend's wedding is in July, and I hope it is literally on the same day so I can not go to the wedding and explain that it's because the Paranormal is returning to Ansonia.
It's now this is not the Tony Sparrow one.
Fuck.
This is a different one run by, let's see, I'm just scrolling through.
Are there dueling Paranormicons?
This one is run by Nick Grossman and Charles F. Rosenay of Ghost Storm Paranormal Investigations.
Those guys might be the motherfuckers who didn't refund my tickets to the last Paranormicon that got canceled by COVID.
Oh, man.
They took that money and ran.
But I thought that was in New Jersey.
It was. In a high school in New Jersey. You think this is different?
I think this is different.
How many Paranormicons are there?
I don't know, but we're going to all of them.
Okay, yeah, fair point.
Willie, you want to go?
Sure, except for I feel like this is how you get murdered. Like I feel like I want a list of at least 10 other people who are going to the Paranormicon before I commit to it, because it could just be a dude's house and
well, you got two right here.
That's
so
true.
We just need
Fair
8 more.
enough.
I actually the location is the haunted Ansonia Armory.
See, that's fun.
That's
nice.
fun. That's fun.
Cool.
So obviously, what we have to do is we have to go. We have to bring microphones. And step 3, profit.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty much it.
You just need one time where you catch a ghost on camera and then you're rolling in it. As far as I'm concerned,
that's it.
Or you're possessed by the devil, because sometimes that happens.
That is my actual dream. Think of how viral we would go, Eric. It wouldn't all be for nothing.
Or maybe it would.
It probably
and you would be possessed.
It probably still would. Yeah, I'd still be possessed. Worth it to me.
I do love the idea that you do become possessed by the devil, and then it's just the devil co-hosting the show with Eric.
We've had this exact conversation.
You? Okay,
yeah.
well, as that's the best idea I've ever heard in my life.
That's the dream.
I just keep showing up, even though I'm terrified, just out of loyalty to the.
And the devil's just really gung ho about hosting a podcast.
Yeah.
Still.
So I have an idea. Eric, we've talked about going to Fiverr.com and hiring someone to cast a spell for us, which is a thing available on Fiverr.com.
Whole cottage industry.
What we do is we pay someone to cast a spell that will assist us in being invited to being the keynote speakers at ParaConn 2 by July.
All right.
And then
that actually works.
You've got ParaConn's balls in a vice that way, because you tell them that, and then if it doesn't work, then paranormal stuff isn't true.
That's you're kind of pulling the rug out of the whole
Yeah.
thing. Wow.
Man, guess.
Wow.
I guess the ball's in their court. ParaConn 2.
I'm really excited for whatever person is about to be really, really, really pumped that someone actually paid them to cast a spell for them, because that's just free money right there. That's pretty awesome. for them.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I don't know what proof we have that they actually do anything.
That is
You know
true.
what I mean?
If I'm paying you to cast a spell, I do want you to
Can
goddamn
we
come
get
on the
like
podcast
a
and
Loom
cast the damn
video
spell.
or like
no, you have to come on the show and cast the damn spell on the show.
Wow. Yeah.
I better see you light a fucking candle.
Yeah, just something.
I do feel like your guys' strength going forward as a podcast is that you seem to be willing to talk to just about anyone. Like 10 times in what you've talked about so far, I've been like, oh no, I'm gonna get murdered. Just like thinking, where I can't talk to that person, but you're just going buck wild.
We play it pretty fast and loose with our
Okay.
own personal safety. I think that's a fair statement.
And you know what? That's what a great podcaster is all about.
Yeah.
That's it. Willingness to risk one's life for what I would describe as humble numbers.
Yeah. Talent, questionable. Money, no. Complete lack of discretion, check, please. That's what we got.
Guys, we should probably get into our topic for this evening that I have dutifully researched about an hour before we started. Weeks ago, I was like, man, I want to have Willie on and I want to talk about Sasquatch.
You did say that.
And then I put off doing actual research into coming up with what we can talk about for an hour about a big ape man who lives in the woods.
He's big. I should note before we get too far into this, for all the folks listening at home, we are all in well-tailored, kind of form-fitting Sasquatch suits right now. Feeling
That's
really
actually
good.
every time.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. We never mentioned it, but yeah.
I'm always in that, and I don't even host the podcast most of the time. I just
Once you get into
comfy.
it's comfy, and it's the zippers all the way in the back.
That's right.
Real pain in the ass to get out of. So it's just like, why not just leave it on?
Yeah.
So just to get a ground level here on Sasquatch, of course, the or Bigfoot, whatever you will, a large ape-like creature, or possibly many ape-like creatures living in the woods of the Pacific Northwest,
among other places.
among other places. That's correct. One, it's I think the science on the existence is questionable at best. Where would you guys, on a scale from 1 to 10, rate yourselves on the possibility of Sasquatch being real? Be completely honest. Eric, where would you put yourself? I think I am at even like looking into it, I'm at about a 2. 2 out of 10.
I'm going to say with a big fat asterisk, I'm going to put myself at like a 6.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Don't pity me.
Willie, where are you?
I'm somewhere between a 0 and a 10, but like no in between.
Sure.
If that makes
It's one
sense.
or the other.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, like the best argument for or against all of those things are the idea of like just basic biology and like breeding populations. So like if there is one, there will be a bunch, and then it becomes like calculable what like level of being able to spot them is. So like I feel like as a creature, by our understanding of what a creature is, 0. But I have seen a lot of History Channel. I've seen I saw one that was about, I believe it was Ancient Aliens, but it was about how how Sasquatches might be interdimensional beings traveling like through places that we don't really fully understand quite yet. And in that sense, I feel like if there is an interdimensional being somewhere out there, which I'm kind of inclined to believe is possible, it will be Sasquatch.
I cannot dispute that in any way. Also,
Right?
10 out of 10.
I think
Phenomenal. Stuck the landing.
I think that because I am curious what everyone is seeing. If not Sasquatch? Like, are there just like, because like I feel like I feel pretty confident in my ability to recognize like a big, ugly, hairy dude versus a Sasquatch.
Sure.
And like I feel pretty confident in my ability. Maybe if I was being chased by a bear, I would, because I guess there have been times where I like, in the moment, like I remember I was walking my mom's dog once, and I remember being like walking and being like, that's a wolf. And then I took the dog and I just ran, like I just, in like the very briefest of moments, I saw the wolf and I ran away. And because I was just like, I don't want to get mauled by a wolf.
Where were you in this?
Suburban Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Okay. And well, it was in Gaithersburg, Maryland. So it was like the woods, kind of, but like we were still on the metro. And I was and then in hindsight, after running away, I was sure I saw a wolf. And then I was like, I probably didn't see a wolf. I probably, like, my mom's neighbors probably just had a really big dog, and I just didn't see them behind them, and then they just saw me see them and run away like I was scared. So, like, in that sense, maybe that's what people are doing with Sasquatches.
Sure.
But there had to be, like, a fur... Because I don't think, like, I feel like even there, my head, in my moment of fear, it went to a thing that I knew was real.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
I don't think that I would go to big, hairy Sasquatch man. So I'm genuinely, like, curious. And I'm open to the idea that there are Sasquatches out there.
I like Sasquatch. I don't think
Yeah.
that's formal, but I think that's
yeah.
what we should use from now on.
Sasquatch.
Sounds like a cool band.
Yeah, right? Oh, fuck. I wish I could play any instrument.
Sasquatch.
Big feet, or is it Bigfoot or Bigfoots or big feet?
I think big feet.
I don't think there is a definitive answer to this, but part of me thinks of Bigfoot as a character in of himself. Bigfoot is a Sasquatch.
So it's
Okay.
like
I don't
Paul
know.
Bunyan.
I don't know if the paranormal community agrees with that.
That's a good, yeah. But then, like, okay, but like, even if it is hypothetically multiple, it should, because he has multiple feet, so I think it should be Bigfoot's.
You think if you're a Bigfoot but you got real small feet, they all like make fun of you?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's got to be the
You don't get
nightmare.
to play in any fucking Bigfoot
You're like
games.
afraid to take off your shoes and stuff.
Or maybe it's like desirable, like, because
It's like they're rare. You got the petite feet. You got
'Cause-
those petite Bigfoot feet.
I mean, obviously, if everyone has big feet in your what would you call what group of animal? What's a
Like in your
murder of
pack,
big feet?
Yeah, sure.
Then I would think that like the more I don't know, what is it generally? If in like is the more common in like humans, is the more commonly accepted thing generally more attractive, or is the
that's a
more
great question.
weird thing?
I feel like it would probably go like it would be weird, but as an exaggeration of the normal thing. So like the real sexy Bigfoot would just have huge feet,
Okay.
just massive,
Yeah,
real
no,
massive snowshoes.
That's probably right. You're probably right. So it would be judged by the size of their feet, but there'd be one Bigfoot that's like a fetishist for small feet.
Yeah, it's like 100%.
So I want to say, before we got started, I was worried. Like, I was looking over my notes, and I was like, man, I hope this is enough to fill an hour.
We're not even gonna get to them.
No,
Yeah, it
absolutely
was like, we're going to
not.
be all right.
You throw that notebook right in the trash. We're not opening that thing.
It's been okay. Well, as long as we're on the topic, and this is not to cast aspersions or make fun. I have no judgments towards furries, but like, are there furries with foot fetishes? Like, is there like a
there's
big
crossover
foot?
Yeah.
Like, does it like? Is there like a? Does it go and then it just keeps going down, and there's someone who's like really into like hoofs.
Sure. I'm
Okay.
sure there must be.
Sure. Oh, like a furry version.
Like a furry version of a foot fetishist. Like you get in the furry community, and then within the furry community, you're into feet.
I mean,
You're
hey,
into furry feet.
We have an email, spookybriananderic@gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you're into some weird stuff, let us know the full gory details.
Please, I am genuine. I have wondered that a while, and we just brought up Bigfoot fetishes.
There's-
so.
Willie's wondering, Willie, please give us your personal address, your personal email address, so they can let you know as well.
It's on Twitter. It's williemuse08@gmail.com.
Oh, I thought you meant your like home address is on
God,
Twitter.
no. Yeah. It probably would be. I don't know. I've doxed myself so many times.
I have too. I have some people on the internet have wanted to send me things before, and I have just freely given up my address, and my wife has been like, "Stop doing this."
Yeah. I've just posted like picture. In many videos I've like been like, this is a package that I got, and then like, thankfully people are very nice and are like, your address is like fully visible. Don't do that. And I was like, Good note.
Yeah,
But
that's
I'll
always
take it. We can work with that.
I would not in a million years have ever thought about it. Thankfully, I don't think I've done it since I've moved from LA. So if anyone's trying to stalk me, it's just whoever moved into my new apartment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Hey, that's just a casualty of the situation.
Yeah. If you guys want my old LA address, I'll give it to you right now.
So steering the ship back into Bigfoot a little bit. I was interested in doing research on this was actually very enlightening in the pathways where I thought maybe there was like this huge Bigfoot community that Eric and I could kind of worm our way into.
I will say, I think if there's any paranormal community we could probably just slip right into incognito, we'd probably be some Bigfoot boys.
I am hoping that all of the Bigfoot furry talk is not discouraging. I would love to get invited on an actual Bigfoot hunt.
Yeah.
So hey, if you're into that, but the thing is, like,
again, murder. Why are you not thinking about murder?
I do not fear being murdered.
Okay, well, you and I are very different people. Because that's truly all I think about.
But what surprised me was I couldn't find that much of a unified Bigfoot community the way you can around other occult stuff.
Right.
I reached out on Twitter. I looked for, hey, is anyone into like Bigfoot hunting that I could ask some questions to? Crickets. Granted, we have a very humble Twitter presence at the moment.
Sure.
So that's not necessarily indicative of anything. But once again, not sure how I was going to fully fill out this hour. I took to Reddit and like looked at like sometimes when we're talking about ghosts and things, I find spooky stories on Reddit of like stuff that sounds plausible enough of like, surely there must be countless Bigfoot sightings of dubious like truth that are spooky enough that I could read on our spooky podcast. Nothing.
Really? Crickets? Just
That
nada?
makes sense.
Crickets.
Having seen multiple Bigfoot hunts, they are not the most tech savvy of people from
Oh,
my
that's a great point, Willie.
experience. Because I feel like ghost
really good
hunters, you got like your like EVP, you
That's
got
true.
your. I think Bigfoot's is just you gotta have like a rifle and like like a flashlight. I think that's all, and it does not, because the ones that I've seen, very invested and very much it seems like camping with a twist. So it seems like they're outdoors a lot. I don't think that they're gonna.
Maybe you're right. I was expecting more like, I don't know, my girlfriend and I were camping and we saw something weird we couldn't explain.
Oh, you mean just regular stories from regular people not looking for it?
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
Yes, and I couldn't find much of anything on that route. Like real crickets, kind of to the point where I was like, is there nothing here? I will say though, obviously, when you're looking into Bigfoot stuff, you have to get into the Patterson-Gimlin film.
When you're looking into big stuff.
When you're looking into big stuff, baby. I don't have to talk good.
No.
So I of course looked into the Patterson-Gimlin film, something you and I have kind of dismissed.
Yes.
In the just casually between us. We have a little like whatever on it. falling down the rabbit hole on it, it is interesting.
I feel like I only know a cursory amount of that whole situation. My 30,000 foot understanding of it is like there's a debunk, but then there's a rebunk, and it goes back and forth like that.
I'm gonna do a very broad some of the weird stuff a little later, and it's there. There's a reason it keeps coming up.
Sure, I do. Okay, that's the famous one, right?
Yes.
Okay, I do love stuff like that, and I genuinely like I like part of me doesn't want to ever like know if this stuff is for real. I genuinely had like a breakdown over the summer because they're going to announce stuff about UFOs, and I was like, I don't want to know about that.
Yeah, remember that was the thing in 2020, and then everyone was like, whatever.
Yeah, I do.
And it felt really fucking weird because it was like on the news. I was like really like it was like OCD related, but like I was like going into my therapist being like trying not to be, and he's like, why are you look so stressed? And I'd be like, it's the UFOs again, god damn it. And he'd be like, and just feel like the craziest person ever. And I was just like, I don't want to have any confirmation about this stuff because then it's like I'm terrified. That said, with the Bigfoot's video, having seen so many people like on both sides make pretty compelling cases for it. It is it would be a fascinating character study, and just like, what is your life? Because like I've seen, like, if it turns out to be real, I've seen people like say like, I was in the suit and I pretended to walk around on it. If that's a lie, you're a weird person. That this is the the hell that you. And then I've seen people be like, you can tell that it's female, and like and like look at the like passion in its eyes, and like it's clearly like sentient and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, you've clearly spent way too much of your life, especially because it's just like I'm obviously interested in this stuff, but I would never want to get too invested in it just because like until I know for sure what's going on, I don't want to put my like energy into being like, I believe in this, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to like have like hard opinions on it, and then like one day I could just be like, no, it's not, like it's the same thing with like Zodiac people, where they like get really, really invested in a single suspect, and like people like lose their like families because they get so invested in trying to figure out who the Zodiac is, and then like. If you just get like, if you manage to like get DNA and like exonerate them or something, I don't know if there's a Zodiac DNA that's like readily available, but in a world where you could do that, you just be like, there's like, you just wasted your life. Like that's the biggest like pulling it out of the rug I could imagine on anyone.
Where there is just an answer.
Yeah, there's an answer, and it's done. And it's just like you made a real good case, and like it was really fun while you were spinning your wheels for however many years, but like it could just be that just like, no, you're wrong, and you should where do you go from there? Even if you're right, like I feel like people who are super into the Zodiac, sorry to talk about the Zodiac,
good.
If they solve it, I feel like I'd be so sad if I had devoted my life to solving the Zodiac killer, and then it's just like, yeah, it was Lou from New Jersey, and it's just like,
it was Ted Cruz.
Yeah. I feel like because it's not going to be like an interesting answer. It's going to be there's a guy. It's a guy with brown hair and glasses. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
He was an electrician. Nobody saw it coming.
And just because the thrill is in the hunt, which I feel like that's probably the same with Bigfoot too, where you're just like.
I've talked in the past about like Bigfoot hunting, and like I assume, I don't know if they would admit it themselves, but like Eric, you and I have taken a couple of heavy quotation mark ghost hunting trips. And like it's largely we're gonna hang out for a couple of hours and maybe something spooky.
It's very
will
fun.
happen,
We usually get like a good sandwich,
right?
You know,
yeah.
There's something about the whole Bigfoot thing that is very funny to me. And Willie, you kind of brought it up before, but it almost doesn't even feel appropriate as a paranormal topic, because at the end of the day, in one version of it, what we're talking and arguing about is the existence or non-existence of an animal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and not even like an interesting one.
Exactly.
a slightly different
just
monkey.
Another great ape.
No, exactly. If it was like readily available, you would not look twice at a Bigfoot in a zoo.
Well, they discover new species that are absolutely wild, like at the bottom of the ocean all the time,
True,
and nobody gives a shit.
The second you see something in real life, you're just like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you saw a dragon,
Yes.
it would be an alligator with wings. That's not that interesting. Maybe if it started breathing fire, but like generally, like I feel like the second anything like. Octopi are way weirder than Bigfoot,
Totally.
and I feel like
that's a great point.
like especially because there's like, and they're like, or there's so many like videos of just like here's a like sees starfish like crawling around that should like upend my existent belief in like reality much more than a like hairy monkey man would like.
Totally agree.
No, it really is a good point because I feel like especially with big like at least with like ghosts, it's like a different like plane or like a different like chemistry or something.
Sure.
Bigfoot, it literally is just like kind of just us but less interest like us but can't talk like
Yeah. Okay.
Unless, of course, it's a dimensional traveler, as I have already posited.
Unless it's a dimensional traveler. Okay, I do want to get into some of this research a little bit. Okay, so I have here one of the first kind of largely documented, and even that is a little like a Western understanding of European colonist understanding of Sasquatch. So missionary work was kind of a major part in opening up the American West. And listen tomorrow to our podcast. Brian and Erica discuss the horrors of North American colonialism. We'll get more into that. We're gonna focus on the big monkey man right now. There was this missionary and Reverend Elkanah Walker. Okay. And he was converting, the Spokane people in what is now Washington State. And this is directly from his diary. Bear with me. I believe he's writing to his superior at some point in the 1830s. Bear with me if I trouble you with a little of their superstitions. They believe in a race of giants which inhabit a certain mountain off to the west of us. This mountain is covered by perpetual snow. They, the creatures, inhabit the snow peaks. They hunt and do all of their work at night. They are men stealers. They come to people's lodges at night when the people are asleep and take them and put them under their skins and to their place of abode without even waking. Their track is 1.5 feet long. They steal salmon from the Indian nets and eat them raw as the bears do. If the people are awake, they always know when they are coming very near by their strange, strong smell that is almost intolerable. It is not uncommon for them to come in the night and give 3 whistles and then the stones will begin to hit their houses. And what's interesting about this from the 1830s is this still kind of tracks with the general Bigfoot stories.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think what's also interesting is that there are a ton of wild man archetypes kind of through many cultures, many places.
Totally.
Your Yetis, your abominable snowmans, and the likes. The Spokane people, of course, were calling these these giant creatures. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Sasquatch. Which is what we bastardized into Sasquatch.
Sure.
And that literally translates to wild man.
Sounds like French, though. Sasquatch.
I believe you are right. And we're kind of close to Canada.
Okay.
Which maybe is something there. I don't know. I am just taking some guesses, though.
Sure.
I will say, like, I feel like for me now, the biggest check in Sasquatch being real's favor is the fact that it was something reported by Native Americans, whereas I feel like just in the shitty like American white world that I've existed in, I feel like 5 years ago that would have been like, well, it's just a legend, obviously.
Right.
But it's like, no, they were pretty much like they were much smarter than us in literally every way, and
Right.
like clear, because that's the thing that I'm like every time we like learn something new about like how we should be living, it's just like be slightly more like how the Native Americans were living.
Right.
I genuinely believe that NFTs are karma for all of the years that I was forced to like believe that like, wow, look at how primitive Native Americans were because they didn't realize that property was this big important thing, and now we're literally just selling nothing and destroying the planet while we do it. And it's okay,
that's it.
that's yeah.
I do have a wonder that, so like, I think the fact that this, for lack of a better word, archetype has existed in, so many places, and there are so many kind of versions of this all over the place, I think sometimes gets brought up as like evidence of like, well, clearly there's something. And I don't know if what I think is interesting is comparing it to other things that we have everywhere. Ghost stories, demons, extraterrestrial sightings. I think this folklore can kind of take on a characterization of common tropes based on maybe common anxieties. And I think a lot of this Sasquatch, wild man, Yeti thing is maybe born out of some sort of anxiety of like our history, the part of ourselves we maybe left behind as we became more civilized, quote unquote. And I just think that's interesting. I don't know. I'm not at all an expert on the Spokane people or their, or their civilization, but I assume there were cultural anxieties that maybe reflected in the same way anxieties do now. Like we all create monsters as representations of the things we have anxieties about.
Well, I think it's also worth noting one of the periods of history that I'm obsessed with right now is, I guess you would say prehistory, is the time they're now discovering, or I don't know how long they've known about this, but there were all these kind of parallel lines of hominids for meaning that like Homo sapiens coexisted with Neanderthals, but they're finding other ones, and it's kind of this dope Lord of the Rings kind of scenario where there's literally like human races, not in the way that we conceive of race right now, as in like, from different, like Homo sapiens from different areas of the world, but literally like closely related but different species.
Yeah.
And I think there's some theories that some stories like this, like ogre stories, giant stories, are literally old human tales describing these other cousin species that maybe we were at war, like had wars with, or there was a predatory relationship or something.
Shit.
And the other thing is like, we haven't been the apex predator on this planet for that long. Like, there was a time where shit would come and eat you for real. And I think like a lot of our modern day stories are just echoes of that like horror movie past, where like a saber-toothed tiger could come and eat your wife in the middle of the night.
My brother told me something that, I don't know the actual veracity of it, but like we've joked about it before. You notice how a lot of bedrooms are on like the second floor of a house? That's still our monkey brains, baby. High up good.
Yeah.
Tigers down there.
For sure.
No, I would never like, I genuinely am like, ooh, the idea of sleeping on, if I had a first floor to have, the idea of sleeping on it would terrify me.
High up good.
Yeah. But then basement bad, because after a certain point.
True.
Yes.
That's similar to something I heard, because there's a thing that's like all cultures have dragons, like have like figured out their own version of a dragon, and there's a theory that it's because they're a combination of all of the worst predators we would have to deal with. So there's snakes, and then there's talons, because you'd be like attacked by like a bird's talon, and then it's like the head of a like a tiger or like a lion or something, because that's so it's like all of the parts of the worst predators that would attack you combined, like buried in our brains, and that's why it pops up everywhere. So it could be like it is weird that like we probably are, if we like coexisted with giants, we probably are hardwired to find a giant scary in some level, because that's survivally speaking, like that.
Yeah.
I totally buy that.
That makes a lot of sense.
But then also, like, why did they all smell bad? Like, because I feel like that's something that pops up a bunch, and that's like
interesting.
because they would smell bad. And when I was coming up with a wolf, I didn't come up with like ideas about that were believable. Like I just like, I saw a dog and I was like, okay, I am running. But like it didn't go. But like to have like the idea of like of stuff that holds together, if it's all in your mind, that is very weird to me.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, that's
especially as a whole culture repeating this.
Yeah.
And the other detail that was interesting that you mentioned was the rock throwing. That's a very specific.
Yeah. See, now the more we're talking about it, the more I'm like, I'm on board for Bigfoot. Like, just because, like, it does. Everything we're saying, it's like, the only reason it sounds so unbelievable to me is because I've been told that it's a crazy thing and it doesn't exist. But, like, I have as much. I guess I've seen an elephant before, but, like, I would. Like, elephants sound more unbelievable to me than Bigfoot. Run into that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But then why haven't we found one? I'm like actually on like a real like mind fuck trip right now. Sorry, no. Give me more facts. I'm gonna end up becoming like a Bigfoot believer.
That's the dream. That's the dream. Okay, so how about we talk about? So that's more. How about we talk about the origin of like the Bigfoot character? It's 1958. There's this guy, Jerry Crew. He's a bulldozer operator in Humboldt County, California. He's deep in the mud in the Six Rivers National Forest, where I believe they're like building some sort of road. He discovers these 16-inch human-like footprints. He tells his coworkers about it, and several of them have actually seen the same thing. There are a few other like odd incidents happening around the site, like a 450-pound oil drum, like just getting like turned over. Some dogs go missing. A bunch of their equipment ends up busted. And the crew begins attributing this all to the big feet. Which obviously grows into this fucking thing with this Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Is coming and fucking with all of our stuff. It's Jerry Crew eventually ends up taking a plaster mold of the feet, and the Humboldt Times picks up this funny little story, and of this mischievous, dangerous wild man who's fucking with with this logging company. It all spreads to the New York Times, to the Los Angeles Times, and it gets out there. And that's where Bigfoot, that name stuck, and that's where that all comes from. Now, what I find interesting, and I always find this interesting, is that a lot of these events don't come out of nowhere. Culturally, it's not like the newspaper was just like a wild man, strange, and then everyone was enraptured by this. Culture was sort of primed to be interested in this. There were in 1958 2 films about Yetis that were popular at the box office. So it all sort of coincides that the culture was ready to be interested in.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, I'm back at 0.
Yeah.
Well, because you also, I'm realizing you just mentioned Humboldt County. A lot of these places seem to be very marijuana friendly. So I am one, and then like that would explain the smell too, because if it smells like a skunk, that's not that I've ever smelled marijuana before. Obviously,
of course
but,
not in our apartment.
No,
that we
never,
shared.
ever. It didn't smell like that constantly. But now I'm feeling like I do wonder if it's just a bunch of stoners being like, shit, man, that must have been a Bigfoot. Like,
Yeah.
Because especially because like I feel like a lot of like there's something where there's like a lot of weird shit of the past can just be explained by ergotism, which is like a thing. It's like a chemical that happens in like a fungus in bread that people in like rye bread or something that people used to eat, and it's basically just LSD. So there's like the Salem witch trials, like a lot of like weird stuff that people were seeing. It's because a lot of time throughout history, people were just accidentally tripping on like LSD
What a time to
without
be alive.
realizing it, and
great.
then like that became part of people genuinely were seeing stuff like that, and then they were like, it became part of our culture, and then it's like, so like there was a time where people were like absolutely like see like a lot of like, that's why like a lot of like the stuff in the past is all like magical and weird and stuff. It's because like people were tripping on LSD, didn't realize they were doing it, and then like telling people about it, and then like, so like maybe I don't know. I think it's just drugs. I'm gonna say the Bigfoot is just drugs.
So there is actually with this one, some people have come forward. There is a Ray Wallace, a coworker of crew, has kind of admitted to the fabricating the footprints, and the story around here goes that this logging company, there was a lot of vandalism around their equipment, and so the owner of the company concocted this little story to kind of don't go into the woods where the logging company is, the monster could get
So
you.
a real Scooby-Doo scenario.
A real Scooby-Doo
What
scenario.
a big swing.
Right?
Yeah.
That, why not just like get a gun?
Yeah, higher security.
I wouldn't use a gun, but I feel like if I wanted to keep kids off my property, I might fire it into the air once and then
And
call
that's
it
just
a day.
fun, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because this area in Humboldt County, Bluff Creek, is, and like we know that story if it's true, that the Scooby-Doo situation, but Bluff Creek kind of is the ground zero of any sort of actual Bigfoot evidence, because that is the location of the Patterson-Gimlin film that we have to get into.
Which came first?
The Patterson-Gimlin film is after that.
Okay.
So it's, you all know the Patterson-Gimlin film. That is the Bigfoot striding across an open field, looking backwards, and then scurrying off into the woods. It is doing research, heavy quotations on research. The Bigfoot Wikipedia article is of okay length. The Patterson-Gimlin film Wikipedia article is at least triple its size.
Astonishing Legends, like the better version of our podcast, did I think they did so many hours on the Patterson-Gimlin film. I mean, there's just so much there. Somehow.
And that's why, there are voices in the community that you and I respect, Eric.
Yeah, for sure.
That are not convinced the video's been debunked.
Yeah.
And that is very, very interesting. Because I don't know where I stand on it, and I'm excited to get into it. You guys both know it. Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
I feel like I know what it's like. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I could give you a rough summary of what happens in it.
It's only 59 seconds. Yeah. I'm gonna
59 seconds. Maybe I've never seen it then. I've seen like 33 seconds of it.
I mean, that's the good part. It's not all the good parts.
I was thinking of Cars 2. I retract that statement.
Okay.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I reached out on Twitter and asked if anyone was Bigfoot hunting, and I said it was crickets, but it was a lot of stuff like, I've seen that, or I've seen, and it was just sightings of the film Cars 2.
They go so fast.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll do a Cars 2 episode someday. I promise.
We're getting there, people.
We'll get into it. It's just a big topic.
Yeah, it's really big.
Do the Cars and Cars 2 fuck?
Yeah. They have to.
They How must. Do they make new cars?
They must, yeah.
So, Roger Patterson is kind of a Bigfoot fanatic. Saw or heard something about it when he was young, and we're kind of talking life's mission, prove that Bigfoot exists. He invites his friend, or he kind of recruits his friend Bob Gimlin to help him make a documentary. And they're going to go to Northern California and they're going to prove Bigfoot exists.
Yep.
Conveniently, around this same area where Jerry Crew found the footprints around Bluff Creek, they see Bigfoot. Allegedly. And they have this 59-second shaky footage of Bigfoot a slight distance away, turning towards them and then walking off into the woods, and Patterson essentially like chasing after him. Like the footage is quite, I've seen a stabilized version, but the footage is like quite shaky. So they bring this video back home and it catches fire in pop culture. But academics are like pretty quick to cry hoax. Guy in a suit.
Yeah.
And like no one, especially without like a body, no one is willing to consider this proof or evidence of Bigfoot. Burping right into the microphone. Sorry, everybody. There is like, it's academics are kind of talking about like a creature of that size wouldn't have that stride.
That's really
it would be moving faster. It's walking kind of like a human.
Yeah.
And it based on its size, it shouldn't be doing that. So it was like he brought it to like a university in British Columbia. They all axed it. I believe Life magazine was like, we'll take a look at it. We'll get some experts to look at it. And then they were like, we can't run a story about this in good faith.
Holy shit.
Just denials everywhere. There are some weird things about it, though. If it's a suit, it is apparently a pretty amazing suit. It allegedly, and we'll get into kind of the details of that, but like completely blows anything Hollywood was doing in 1967 out of the water.
Really?
It's so. John Chambers is the guy who did all the ape costumes for the Planet of the Apes series of films. Arguably an expert in humanoid monkey costumes.
Sure. If not the.
He was actually at one point accused of perhaps building this suit. It's that good. And to which he's responded, it's good, but I'm not that good.
Wow.
Now there's some debate here, though. That's not quite one and done. Stan Winston, who you might be familiar with, he made like all the Terminator effects. His special effects genius. He says the exact opposite. He says that if one of his guys made this for a movie, his whole studio would get shut down. It's unacceptable. He calls it a cheap fursuit. He said he could make this suit for a couple $100 today, under $1,000 back then.
Whoa.
Now, Chambers, the first guy, says that this couldn't be, he argues this couldn't be some suit that they rented. If it's fake, it would have absolutely taken at least a custom tailor. Like somebody very good would have had to make this suit. Ellis Berman, who was a special effects and makeups artist, created Bigfoot suits for like carnival shows. And he says he definitely could have made that suit, but it would have cost him $10,000 at the time, which is not a means that Patterson would have had.
It's kind of weird just off the bat, the divergence of opinion on the quality of the suit itself.
Yes. I think that's very, very interesting. And so lots and lots of Hollywood people have weighed in over the years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, contrary to Stan Winston, and I'm a big Stan Winston fan, but a lot of people contrary to him, it's like, no, it's a pretty good looking suit.
Funny. Because I was going to say, that's my biggest objection to the Patterson-Gimlin film is like, it could just so clearly be a guy in a suit.
Yes. Maybe.
Yeah, right.
It is. You'd think. Okay. Because I know people have said that they like were the person in the suit, but then where is the suit? Like,
that's another great question.
Because I feel like, especially because I guess I don't know the inner workings of Humboldt County, but I feel like it's So that's not an easy thing to transport around.
And they were on horseback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, there's a guy riding a horse in the Bigfoot suit, or the
Hypothetically. And like it's like, so the actual like Bigfoot footage stuff is 59 seconds. There was more film.
Oh, interesting.
That like would, and like it's not digital. It's not like you can splice. It's like there is a roll of film that they would have had to splice up and then retape together.
Yeah.
To kind of.
I'm back at a 10. I believe in Bigfoot completely.
What happened to the other footage?
It's around.
Okay.
If
Gotcha.
I'm kind of talking out my butt, but I didn't. I believe I've read stuff from people who have seen all of it. There's just nothing there, you know.
Got it.
The 59 seconds is the good bit.
The thing that I keep going back and forth on too is you said that this guy is a Bigfoot fanatic. Like he wanted, and that's where I'm like, okay, the guy who gets Bigfoot on camera is a Bigfoot fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, imagine how much that would suck if your whole life was to get Bigfoot on camera and then people didn't believe you because you were trying to get, because you were like, you achieved your dream. That'd suck.
It's so there. It's a debunk and then a rebunk type of thing where it's like, yeah, you went out to make a Bigfoot documentary and you happened to find Bigfoot, huh? But he did go to where all the story said Bigfoot was.
But then also they said that it wasn't. It was a hoax. I am back at 0 now.
It is funny that, I mean, Willie's right. Like, if Bigfoot is real and that's real footage of Bigfoot and you really saw Bigfoot and it's not a hoax, that thing is a slam dunk.
Yeah.
You have a minute of this cryptid on camera.
He is the luckiest person alive in more ways than one. He has achieved his dream more than any of us will ever know. And then he got spit on for it. Poor guy.
It kind of ties back, Willie, into something you've been alluding to, which is the possibility that Bigfoot is this manifestation of like a larger strange phenomena, like the trickster phenomena kind of deal, which would be perfect. It's like, yeah, I'm going to show you. Nobody's going to believe it though, bro.
Yeah. Okay, I'm back at 10.
So it's also interesting of like, I'm not a Hollywood makeup expert. I watch a lot of movies, but that's about it. Sometimes I think that makes me an expert.
I mean, you do watch a lot of movies. You're pretty well versed in film. What is your just gut take watching?
What I think is interesting is compare it to, this was a production, but like this wasn't a Hollywood production by any means. It looks better than other effects of the time. Think of like other hoax footage, like alien autopsies and things that don't hold up at all.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it still looks bare minimum like a big gorilla to me.
Totally.
I mean, whatever the case is, I respect. What is this man's name?
Patterson.
I respect Patterson more than anyone ever because either they achieved their dreams and saw Bigfoot, or they are like really smart at hoaxing because like that is like especially because it's like that's like the way you're describing it sounds kind of smart for now times, but when we have hoaxes where I feel like I've watched like YouTube videos trying to pass off that they're hoaxes and they don't have the wherewithal to kind of build and keep things kind of realistic and like add like superfluous stuff. It's just like, here's the clip and like there's like a doll moving in the background. It's like, that's not
right.
So like if he was that forward thinking, and he sounds like he's a great filmmaker at the very least, and what became of him? Do you know?
He died pretty broke.
Oh, well, see,
there you go.
But he did go like to his deathbed insisting this was real. Gimlin did the same.
Wow.
And so it's also interesting of the footage of like certainly no anticipation that digital video would come along and we'd be able to like enhance and really like frame by frame look at this video, and it holds up. It's very good. The suit still, when you like repair the video,
alleged suit,
it still looks pretty good. Which is it's almost like, and just kind of reading other people's takes on it, I don't know if I would have gotten there myself. People saying you can see the musculature of the animal.
But like, wouldn't that? Here's my counterpoint to that is like, if it's just a human in a suit, the suit's just a thin skin on top of your real. Wouldn't that still be the case? Like,
you can't see my muscles through a t-shirt, so like the idea.
Yeah, I don't know if that holds water for me, bud.
Okay.
Although I don't. I feel like it's like the okay. So I watch a lot of true crime, and my favorite thing in true crime is when there's a lot of them are just like who like finding the suspect. That's like sort of the procedural of it, and it is insane. Every small murder, there are like 6 people in someone's life that the police are able to make like a like pretty good case for the idea that they wanted to murder this person. And I feel like it must be like, I got to imagine like that's my gut tells me like that's like the best explanation for it is just like if you have enough eyes on something and you're trying to make a case for it, you can just pull shit from everywhere. But then like I mean that doesn't prove one way or the other what it is, but it does make me feel like every single person who claims to be an expert in something is just overly confident because it sounds like everyone is just like you could just say shit and then like especially with this where it's just like you're just like well I mean but like there are people where it's just like you can like analysis unless there's like a scientific thing for it, you don't know what the hell you're talking like because like it sounds like that there's always just someone else who can just be like, well actually this, and it's just like how the hell do you get to be called an expert if you're just like whatever I want to say is gonna work.
Dude, it's like we're all watching the same 59 seconds of film.
Yes.
They have no access to privileged or special. We're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah, very much so. So there's one other thing I think is interesting about the footage, and that is that if this is fake, this requires them to acquire a reasonably good, at bare minimum, 8-foot gorilla suit.
Yeah.
Fill it out that we still apparently can't quite replicate.
Weird.
Require them to get it out into the woods and then require someone to suit up into this thing, walk into the brush, turn with the suit's eye holes about 2 feet above where a human being's head would be. And then continue walking. Now, here I read that, and that was interesting. My personal rebuttal to that would be there's a lot of talk of like 8-foot gorilla costume. It's 59 seconds. I don't notice a discernible scale there.
Yeah.
Right.
We have their word. It's 8 feet tall. But
well, are there?
Yeah. How do you know?
I'm sure. Have people gone back to where have people found where it was shot?
They have. I didn't write this part down, so I'm doing this part from memory. A lot of the, as always, this is not much original reporting. There's a great podcast from ParaConn called Conspiracy Theory that I listen to, and that's where I cribbed a lot of this stuff. But 9 days after Patterson-Gimlin returned with the footage, someone went out to that site. They also like took a cast of the footprints in that area after the Bigfoot wandered away. The footprints were still there. And when they took their own plaster of them and brought them to an expert, that expert says that it would be extremely difficult to fake because whatever had created those footprints had like at least, I believe it was like 500 pounds of pressure to make those footprints.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the thing about that is like you could say like, well, maybe they weighted down the suit or whatever, but
why would they think to do that?
Well, also, it's insanely difficult to walk with 500 pounds of weight.
Right.
Did they...
Unless, however, they made the footprints wasn't actually from the suit.
Good point.
But then that's still really forward, because I I would just be like, I don't. The wind blew them away. Like I wouldn't think that far.
Right. If you went there and there were no footprints, I don't think 9 days later I feel like, yeah, there's no footprints there.
Yeah.
But this is I genuinely was. I genuinely don't know how to feel right now. This is a
rabbit hole.
That's interesting. So, but what? That's weird. That's very weird. Did they have did they say that the footprints looked real? Like were there like ridges and stuff in it that were?
I do not actually know.
Okay.
I was going to say the footprints thing is interesting because that seems like a pretty well studied field.
Right.
Like people know about tracks and sign and kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually know on that one. That would be an interesting one to do a part 2 on. But that's all. Sorry, Willie.
No, I'm genuinely just thinking. Like I would just like. I never heard that. I've never heard that before. I'm like, because Bigfoot of all of the paranormal stuff, I feel like it is the one that I'm like most. Like I'm most ready to dismiss out hand.
We're the same way.
I feel like it. First of all, it's like the least interesting one to me, kind of on like the surface level because it's just a big monkey.
Yeah, it's an animal.
But that is really weird. That is because, but then like whatever it is, it sounds like there's a really cool story here being told. I don't know which one it is. I don't even know which one is more interesting because honestly the idea that like a bunch of farm dudes made like the greatest horror movie footage ever made and took it to their grave is just as interesting if not more interesting than a monkey to me.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, man, when you were talking about that, I feel like the thing that's interesting about our show is if you take the total skeptic angle on every topic we cover, it's literally a study of exactly, Willie, what you're talking about, like pathological hoaxers who just have to lie. And like, even though when you're 90, it would be the funniest thing in the world to be like, it was all a big joke. I don't know. They don't do that.
Right.
That I do think that's why I get very like into like paranormal stuff is I genuinely don't have I'm not like this is not like a good way, but like I am genuinely like the most gullible person in the world. Just in this idea where it's just like the idea of someone lying to me is I'm just like why would you lie? Like I don't get why people lie. Like when someone tells me something, I'm just gonna be like, I assume you're telling me the truth. I don't know. I don't have like I think it's very weird when people are like, they're clearly lying. I'm just like, no, they're not. And like the older I get, the more I'm like, oh no, they probably were. Like that was But it's weird to me because I'm just like the idea that you would want to lie about this stuff is so strange to me.
And don't get me wrong, Willie, you've been a cohort in this. I love to tell a story. I love to get you on one a little bit. I love to creep people out, but immediately after, I'm like, it's just fucking around.
Yeah,
I can't imagine maintaining something. What's the fun? No one knows you did a good job.
And there's never money in any of this. There's no discernible motive except attention.
Well, especially for like the Bigfoot thing, where it's like I kind of get like I feel like in this room I'm not the only person. There have been many times where I've been like, should I make like an ARG? That seems really cool. Like, should I like do like an internet hoax or something? Like, I get the point, but like from the perspective of someone in the internet where I've seen it done many times before, and I'm like, that seems cool. But for them to be like a visionary of like being a hoaxer is very strange, where I feel like you don't even get that immediate return on satisfaction where you're like, this is going to be, and if you don't do it well enough, like there are like 5 channels. If you get big enough that you can like get them covered by like all those places you're telling about, you could just be completely like written off and like become like a total. It's not like today you can make a hoax and then it just gets buried and whatever. But like if it gets big enough, to have any sort of satisfaction, then it's also like a huge risk. And like, okay, I guess I'm at a 5 now. Like I'm like,
I think a 5. I think I'm at about a 5. Eric, has your shift at all? You were at a 6.
My 6 was kind of what we were talking about before, where it's like my read on it is that I feel like it could easily be referencing. It could be a piece of folklore or legend that is referencing a thing that was real, like the original inhabitants of North America, the indigenous tribes. Like, it wouldn't be that surprising if there was a great ape that used to live in, colder climes, and maybe they hunted it to extinction or just, whatever, and it doesn't exist anymore, but they told stories about it, and now people just look at it. And by the way, there's bears that, when they stand upright, kind of look exactly like all of this.
Right. That is a common thing for Bigfoot. No, you saw a fucking bear.
Yes, exactly. So that's my 6, that it's like, maybe it could have easily been real in the past.
Right.
I think if that's the gauge, then I think I'm at a 10 where it definitely existed at some point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because it is just a monkey, man. Like, I feel
like a monkey, man.
Just a monkey.
Man.
They were big lizards. Why couldn't there been big monkey?
Exactly.
Although they were big birds, actually, Brian.
You're right. God, I'm an idiot. God.
Although some of them were lizards, I don't understand how dinosaurs work.
Well, so this was a very broad discussion about Bigfoot. If you have anything that, like, if you out there have anything that we maybe missed, maybe anything that would be interesting to kind of do a Bigfoot part 2, Willie, would you come back for a Bigfoot part 2
Absolutely.
someday?
I'm going to be going down a rabbit hole on my trip home. So.
Excellent. Send us any details to spookybriananderic@gmail.com. We'd love to read it. We'd love to go deeper in on this. And hi, have you ever been on a Bigfoot hunt? Would you like to invite 2 idiots to go on a Bigfoot hunt with you?
3 idiots.
3
please.
idiots.
Yes.
3 idiots. We would love to join once again. That's spookybriananderic@gmail.com. We're also at Brian and Eric Pod on Twitter. Hey Willie, where can we find you on the internet?
YouTube. If you type in Willie Muse, I'm the one who is not an old circus performer.
I want to watch that, Willie.
Yeah, you could be.
Ew, yeah. He had a life. And then at WillieSilly2 on Twitter. I don't know my Instagram, but it's there. I think if you just type my name in the ones that look like me, if you know what I look like, that'll be me.
Great. That'll do it. Eric, anything else we should go over? You ready to get out of here?
I think we nailed it.
Beautiful. That's going to wrap up this broadcast for the night. We want to thank Purple Planet and Carl Casey at White Bat Audio for the use of their music. Do you want to get in touch with us? Follow us on Twitter at Brian and Eric Pod, and find everything else at briananderic.show. For both of us here at Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, thank you for listening, and stay safe out there.